Welcome to Plan VTV, the show about Vermont independence. I'm Rob Williams, the publisher of VermontIndependent.net, where every citizen is an entrepreneur and every entrepreneur a citizen. With us today in the MRVTV studio, we are incredibly fortunate to have all the way from Plainfield, Calais area, Jim Hogue, who is a Vermont historian, thespian, equestrian, Ethan Allen reenactor, baseball enthusiast, farmer,
and sometimes musician,
and ukulele player. Yeah, Jim, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so glad you're here. So we are here today to talk about a new screenplay for a movie that you are beginning to put together called, I love this title. This will shock all of you as Vermonters: Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys. And here's a quick summary of the movie screenplay. Is that the right word to use, right? A screenplay? Yeah.
It is. It's not a shooting script yet.
So it's that would be the next step?
Yes.
Okay. So it says, Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys. Summary. This is the story of 5 men and a young woman who try to make Vermont an independent republic. They secede first from the Vermont State Mental Hospital, that's in Waterbury, then join up with their fellow secessionists. The cause of independence advances because of the success of these characters in evading the law and because of the promotion of independence by more and more partisans of liberty. Sounds fantastic.
Thank you.
So welcome to the studio. So tell us, Jim, where did the idea for Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys, the movie, where did that materialize?
It was sort of percolating for years in my head, and then I knew what to do when I believe her name was Linda Gottlieb, seceded from that same institution in real life.
In Waterbury, Vermont.
Yes, yeah. She just walked out the door and checked out the view, and off she went.
So she literally she left the hospital.
Yes.
And this is how many years ago? Like 15 or so?
I think it was about 15 years ago. And I actually called her and had a long talk with her at some point. And I interviewed her on my radio program and got to know the whole scenario. She wrote a very long piece about it, which I read. She said it was very heavily edited and didacted and all that stuff. But that's beside the point. So from that real-life story, her journey and what she went through when she was out in Liberty, I wrote an initial screenplay but I made it about 6 guys, actually. And I realized that it needed a lot of work, but I also realized that I've written 10 plays, and I'm probably much better at writing plays than I am at writing screenplays. So is that the camera I'm supposed to look at, by the way?
Oh, no, just look at me.
Right there?
Yeah, we're just having a conversation. So can I stop you there? Because I don't know. Can you explain the difference between writing a play and writing a screenplay? Because I don't know that, and I'm guessing a lot of our viewers may not know that. So what's the difference?
Well, there's a technical format difference that I'm not a real expert on, but you can just download any instruction manual for writing a screenplay, and then you can do the same thing for writing a script. You have options for writing a script for the stage, because you can write it sort of like Shakespeare and Shaw did. You just put the character and the lines, and off you go. And you write stage directions, maybe in italics. Give some space. You want to give...
And like a little bit of blocking, right? It's called blocking information, like...
Yeah, and in italics, I always write the blocking, who's moving where and when and that sort of thing. Right. And I might occasionally write what the motivation is of the character, or I might even put in some subtext, because as an actor, I studied acting for many years professionally, so I learned about subtext. Most people who write screenplays and scripts are not actors. So they just write what they want you to say, and then the actor figures out the subtext. But I like to give signposts along the way, but that's sort of getting a little bit further away from your question.
So that's helpful because I wasn't sure about that. So here we have in our hands the
screenplay.
The screenplay.
It has words like POV in it, which means
I saw that. Yeah.
Point of view.
Point of view.
You
right.
wouldn't ever put that, obviously, in a stage play script.
Right.
You want to give signposts as to where the camera is.
Right.
And who's on camera.
Okay.
Whereas with a stage play,
everybody's
on
the stage.
Yeah.
Well, so let's talk for a minute about these characters. So we've got 5 men and a young woman, and I just want to read the description for one character here, a gentleman named Jeremy Stiles, in parentheses, Ethan Allen. Mm-hmm. You describe him in the screenplay here as elderly but athletic, charismatic, quixotic, thoughtful, funny, a good horseman, and ballroom dancer. He is as impatient, determined, pugnacious, decisive, and heroic as the historic Ethan Allen. To call him a cross, I like this, to call him a cross between High Plains Drifter and Don Quixote would be on the mark. That's a fantastic description. So, any more to say about Jeremy Stiles before you describe the other characters?
Yeah, there's an actor that I think, besides Clint Eastwood, there's an actor I think would be absolutely perfect because he's 100 times better actor than Clint Eastwood, though Eastwood's a fantastic presence on the screen.
Who's that?
Robert, and I can't think of
his last name. So, but can I jump in here? Because, so I like Clint Eastwood, and I get the High Plains Drifter reference. Clint Eastwood, it feels to me like he'd be a little understated, a persona to play Ethan Allen. Because I think of Ethan Allen as being so in your face.
Yes.
Like sort of larger than life. And Clint Eastwood is that way, but in a very more sort of restrained and kind of intense, inward focus.
You're absolutely right, which is why I'm trying to, I wish I could think of this other actors.
Yeah, Roberts, what is it? That's okay. Well,
God, he must be in his 80s now.
It'll come to us.
Fantastic actor. He brings so much.
What was he in? Maybe that would help. Do you remember anything he was in? Robert?
He was in a movie about gypsies. He was in a movie about a preacher, a southern preacher. He was in a movie about Argentina, dancing in Argentina. I'm trying to think of movies he starred. He was in The Godfather.
Oh, not Robert Culp, not Robert. Oh, Robert Duvall.
Thank you.
Robert Duvall. I knew we'd get it.
Yes.
So Robert Duvall. Okay, good.
Yes.
I can see that. Okay.
Yeah, because he can be very theatrical.
Very.
But also absolutely on the mark and creative. His fantastic timing, great eye. His expressions are always so rich.
Yeah.
You know, Eastwood is much more one-dimensional.
Yes. Well, I guess that's what I'm saying.
And everything else you said about Eastwood is absolutely true. Whereas Robert Duvall is much more versatile.
Yeah.
And he can show that versatility in any part. I'm
remembering, I'm pulling up my Duvall filmography here, and I can see that. My favorite Robert Duvall movie actually was Paddy Chayefsky's, the director's film Network. Way back in the 70s. Duvall was in that. Yeah. And he was great.
I forgot that he was in that.
Well, yeah, he was in that. Big cast. Faye Dunaway and I forget who played Howard Beale. Peter Finch.
I'm not going to take it anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm mad as hell. Yeah. So tell us about these other characters. Do you want me to read them off? Would that be helpful?
Whichever one you think might be more. The girl is a recent creation.
Hildy.
I had another. Hildy is new.
Okay.
I had a character named Ira, but I replaced him.
You did?
With Hildy.
With Hildy.
For adding dimension to it. Ira was very slow and autistic kind of guy, but brilliant also. His connections were not normal, so he wouldn't be a safe person to have out on his own. He couldn't function. But he loved being with these guys.
Yeah.
So I wanted a new dimension in it. I hated to lose Ira, but I didn't want more than 6 Green Mountain Boys. I could just... So I made him into Hildy, named after the character in His Gal Friday with Cary Grant and Rosalind Russell.
Yeah.
Because she is one hell of a character in that movie.
I'm remembering,
God.
So you describe Hildy here as a young woman, committed to the hospital by her family, diagnosed as bipolar, schizophrenic, user of whatever mind-expanding drugs she could get her hands on, unpredictable. She enjoys her new freedom and being with these men whom she admires. She has nervous habits, such as tearing paper. So do you have someone in mind?
An actress? No.
No.
Well, I had various actresses float into my head who could play Hildy. I want her attractive enough so that the Green Mountain Boys are consistently distracted by her. And when I say attractive, I mean in every way.
Yeah. So not just physically appealing, but also she's got a certain charisma.
Yeah, and her unpredictability. And again, a lot of that has to do with the people you cast in the play, because you can't just tell somebody to be creative.
Right.
You got to give them a good skeleton to work from.
And this is where auditions would come into play, because you'd want to sort of suss out the right people, and you wouldn't know that till you kind of see them on stage a little bit, right? And sort of, and again, I have a little bit of theatrical experience, but enough to be dangerous.
I mean, I know people around here like George Woodard and Rusty Deweese, who would just be perfect for some characters.
Yeah, I was imagining those two in my head as well. Yeah. So then you have this character. So we got Jeremy Stiles, Ethan Allen. We got Hildy. You got this character named William Brodeur, middle-aged, average-looking businessman, competent and reliable, hospitalized because he was suffering from memory loss and disorientation. By all appearances, a solid citizen.
Yes, so he could look like your average accountant, but when they escape, he has certain skills that the other six. They all have certain attributes, and some have real skills that help them get away.
So what's he good at? What's William Brodeur?
He can keep people in line. He can give people good advice. He goes to the bank and he gets money from his account, but he can't remember the name of his bank. So they have to sort of sort that out.
Figure out what bank they're going to. Oh, that's funny.
And when they get the money, after they take a shuttle bus from the institution to Burlington.
So like a public bus, or is it?
But it's like a lot of these buses around Vermont that shuttle you.
Well, I'm imagining the cat bus that runs from Montpelier through Waterbury to Burlington every morning and evening for the commuters.
Yeah.
So something like that? Something
like that, only it's like hospital to hospital.
Oh, okay.
And other kind of services. So that Waterbury stop would be at the hospital in case a visitor or whatever.
Right. Somebody wants to show up. Yeah.
Oh, so fun. They go to Burlington on this bus, and I have this idea that, Howard Dean would be also a passenger in the bus, so just riding the bus on the way to Burlington, maybe having a chat, or just sitting there. And also sitting on the bus would be Jim Douglas.
I was going to say, I was just
right on the bus.
Yeah. So that's hilarious.
So they get there, they get off the bus. They don't know quite what to do, but the bus lets them off at the hospital, at not Fletcher Allen anymore, at UVM Hospital.
Yeah, up in Burlington. Yeah.
And so they have to sort out what they do there. They decide they're going to get some money, so they go to the bank, and then he spots by then the word is all out. It's in the script about them being loose. And they think they're in Waterbury. So they're pretty safe in Burlington, but the word's out all over the state that these guys are out there.
An APB, right.
And they're not harmless. I mean, they're not harmful, but, we want to get them back. So for their own safety, of course.
Yeah, of course.
We want to get them back.
Right.
So he sees a cop do a U-turn behind him in the road.
This is
the five. The five of them are in the car.
Okay,
Hildy's in the car. And,
and
Caleb, I think, is driving. Doesn't.
Okay, and we'll get to him in a minute.
Yeah. And so I have this car chase, which is completely unlike any other car chase I've ever seen before. It's an anticipatory car chase. They anticipate what the cop might do, and so it's a very subtle car chase because they don't want to provoke the cop. So they'll take a little dive into a parking lot, and then they'll go down a little alley, and then they'll come out another alley. And they park at Champlain College, and they all duck, and he's sitting in the car. So it's that subtle kind of thing. And there are going to be other little escapes during the movie.
Nice.
Where it's sheer thinking something out that gets them away. It's not necessarily a crazy...
Action-oriented. It's more...
Yeah. Cars don't crash and go into lakes and things like that.
Right. Massive urban chase scenes in Burlington.
Right.
So you just said something that struck me. This seems to be a screen, and I haven't read the whole thing, but this seems to be a screenplay about escapes. And the idea of seceding, of course, for Vermont is about escaping, right, from the United States as an imperial project. So I want to come back to that. But back to the characters. So we've got Jeremy Stiles, Ethan Allen. We've got William Broder. We've got Hildy. There's three. You've got a character named Kurt Bruckner?
Yes.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah. Named after a guy that helped me with the voting.
Bill.
Bill Bruckner.
I remember Bill.
Yeah.
Is he still with us? We lost him.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. He worked on the voter integrity stuff.
Yeah.
Here in Burlington for many years, or in Vermont for many years.
Yeah. So there was a character that I wanted him
to
be in the movie,
the
original movie.
Yeah.
He's perfect.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. So Kurt, alias Bill Bruckner, late 50s to mid 60s, irascible, tough, strong, clever. He is competent and reliable, not to be crossed, and a man you'd want in your foxhole. So I know I met Bill Bruckner. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, that description was for him, not just for the character.
Does he know that he's a?
Well, when I first did a reading,
I
invited him to be there. I think he might have even read.
He did
when I first did a reading.
All right, and then you have these two other characters, Caleb O'Neill. Quiet, between 30 and 45 years in age, also competent and reliable, recovering from a nervous breakdown suffered at a tedious, stressful, and pointless job, mentally alert, but not physically strong. Yeah,
I think he's the guy that threw a computer out the window. Well, it's described.
Oh, okay.
Now, folks out there, you screenplay writers, I've had to wrestle with the idea of is this just something the characters know about themselves? Is it something that I want to have a flashback and show him throwing the computer out the window? There's a character who punches a policeman, which is one of the reasons why he's in there. Do I want to flashback to him punching the policeman? These are difficult choices because they go by really fast, and you can have a flashback in 2 seconds.
Right.
It's a $10,000 scene maybe to get everybody out there and punch the cop and then, okay, cut.
Do you know the TV show Orange is the New Black?
No, I've heard of it. I've never.
Yeah, so it's a show about a women's prison. It's very popular I think it's on Netflix. But what you're saying here reminds me a little bit of that show, because every inmate in the prison in the show gets her own backstory, and they unpack it over the course of the seasons of the show. I think it's been through several seasons. So it sounds like you're wrestling with trying to do that with these characters a little bit, like how'd they end up in the Waterbury Mental Hospital?
Yeah, and do I show it?
And do you show it, and how much do you show it?
Right.
Yeah. That's an interesting question.
Another thing I'm really wrestling with, this is an episodic movie, which means it's more likely to work as a TV series than as a movie.
I wondered that. Yeah.
I mean, this is what we've got in front of you. There is one episode.
Yeah.
And it's good because it sets up, you wonder what's going to happen in the next episode, because it's just, there's a spring-loaded thing going on here.
Nice. So you could kind of imagine spinning this off into like more episodes.
I could see a 2 or 3 year series because of the unique, it's not like, well, obviously you don't want to put up anything to the public if it's just like something else. Right. So 6 people who are, irascible and questionable, and you don't know what they're going to do. That's one thing that's different. And that they're seceding from the U.S. I mean, that's never been the subject of anything. So that's kind of different. And the fact that they have these people out in the woods that they live. Now there is a show where there were people out in the woods that lived, which is called Justified.
Oh yeah, yeah.
God,
Yeah, I remember that show.
fantastic.
Good show. Yeah.
Acting was just
Really good.
the script.
I remember that
just
show.
Wonderful, based on Elmore Leonard.
Right.
So that idea of people hiding out with friends out in the woods is hardly unique. But still, I've got, the fact that they're unpredictable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I like this. So the last character, so we've got Hildy, Caleb, Kurt, William, and Jeremy, Ethan. John LePage, 30 to 50 years old, a mimic. His spot-on imitation is of Chico Marx. He finds characters to play to fit what he says and does, a born performer.
Yeah, I think of him as somebody, as an actor, a real pro. You can't just, walk down the street and say, hey, you want to be in my movie? This guy takes on characters for different lines that he gets, and that's up to him. That's up to the actor and the director to decide what it is. And there's a scene in there where he actually plays Chico
Marx.
and he thinks he's hiding from the cop.
Yeah.
But the cop is so sharp. This is a good cop.
Okay.
He is so sharp. He looks a little like Groucho. And I just adore this scene.
Yeah.
Where John LePage gets into the same conversation with the cop that they have in a Marx Brothers movie. It's a parallel conversation.
Yeah.
So the cop is trying to learn where the other Green Mountain Boys are from Chico.
From Chico.
But he won't tell him. He pretends he doesn't even know what he's talking about. So I don't remember that.
Oh, that's fantastic. So that's one of the many scenes here. Yeah, this is fun to talk about the characters, and then you give us a little bit of a reveal. We don't want to give away the story too much, but I like this. So you have these 6 characters. So you and I talked about performing a quick scene.
Yeah.
Should we do that?
We can do that.
Let's do that. Yeah, so set this up for us.
The Jeremy, who is they call him Ethan Allen for various reasons having to do with his independence-minded stuff. And this is between Jeremy and his brother. Right after Jeremy escapes and the other 5 get on the bus and go, they see him walk out the door and they look at each other and they go,
Maybe we'll go too?
And they just walk out the door. Because at that time, see, they realize they can leave because the secretary at the desk has had to go do something, and the other people have just momentarily all had to just do something, and they leave the common room where they've been doing things that mental patients do, nothing or watching television or
mostly
playing solitaire,
right.
And they just walk out. So Jeremy runs through Waterbury, and I love the idea, maybe to the tune of Brazil, and
running up the main street.
Yeah, so he runs to the cafe where his sister-in-law works, borrows her car, goes back to the farm where his mother lives. She's in her 80s, and the brother's there, and the other brother's there. It's a family farm, and so that's where they are now. And Jeremy needs to get out of there, so he wants to get the motorcycle, but the motorcycle doesn't work. The brakes are seized. It hasn't been used in years, so they hear a horse whinny, and they go, "Oh yeah, right." So they go into this thing about, we have to tack up the horse, groom the horse, tack him up, and then get out of here. Because the police, the first place they're going to check is the farm.
It's the farm. Yeah.
So they've already checked the farm once.
Yeah.
And they play dumb.
Yeah.
No, not here.
Right.
And so the police don't have a search warrant, of course. So they go, okay, thanks. They all know each other. The cops know the family.
Yeah.
It's a local
it's a small,
cop.
Right, small.
It's not a state cop. It's a local cop.
Nice.
So, okay, bye-bye, and off he goes. And in the end of this scene, the cop shows up as Jeremy's leaving, and I just love that scene because there's this long pause where you don't know what's going to happen, because his job, Wendell's job, is to stop Ethan, bring him back. So Ethan's there, George is there, Joe's there, the mother's there, and the cop tips his hat to them. Hello, Mrs. Stiles.
That's fantastic. So you're reading the part of Jeremy Ethan Allen.
Yes, I'll read the part of Jeremy Ethan.
And I'm reading the part of George,
brother,
who is Jeremy's brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of a George Woodard kind of guy. In fact,
no,
I thought of George Woodard.
Yeah.
It's a big help to know these people.
Well, yeah, big shoes for me to fill, George Woodard. But so we're going to start.
So you can start with.
We're still fighting mad.
We're still mad about what happened to Jeremy, locking him up. In other words.
So here we are. We're at the farm. You and I are brothers. You're Ethan, Jeremy. I'm George. Okay, so here we go. Am I supposed to be kind of a little bit annoyed when I read this? It seems that way. I'm just trying to get.
You've known each other your whole lives, and it's a personal scene between you and Jeremy.
Okay, so we're brothers.
And you're not annoyed at Jeremy. You're worried for him.
Okay, good. That's all right. I needed some coaching. All right, here we go. We're still fighting mad about what happened to you, Jeremy.
I know. Thanks for your help. You can't expect people to understand what I did, and you can't expect them to reject authority. It's death by etiquette. There are folks you want in your foxhole, and there are folks you don't.
You're going to find out with the stunt you pulled today.
You ain't seen nothing.
You and Ethan jump-starting the revolution.
Without firing a shot or losing a man.
Just think.
So they reach the motorcycle in short order. They realize they can't free the brakes. They step back, shake their heads. A horse whinnies, and they know the answer. They pick up the box of grooming equipment, add some grain to a small feeding container, and then head for the nearby pasture. Hi, Whiskey. Did you miss me?
I'll fetch the tack.
Don't be too hard on folks, Whiskey. And he's talking to the horse now. Don't be too hard on folks, Whiskey. They're just watching the movie. You can't expect them to step into it any more than you can expect them to fly. They don't know the difference between the screen and what's beyond it. And sometimes, most of the time, they can't even watch. They're paralyzed. So George comes back with the saddlery and everything, and they continue to groom Whiskey, and they tack up the horse. They tie the halter rope around Whiskey's neck with a cavalry knot. So he's got the halter on and the bridle on and the cavalry halter rope, and they're ready to go.
And George says, how do you expect people to come around to independence when they're paralyzed?
First, I don't. I need 3%, George. That's all Ethan had. That's all Washington had. 3% willing to put themselves on the line. The rest could wake up tomorrow to a free republic and not even know the difference. Second, they need a crisis. It's here. They don't know it yet because they don't mind buying water, getting used to getting sued for planting their own seeds, watching the government steal their livestock, crops, and property, being harassed, cheated, poisoned, spied on, and lied to, losing jobs and paying for treason, false flags, money laundering, and bankers' wars to kill Arabs and American soldiers, some of them their own kids. But they will, George. I'm going to shake it, and it'll crumble because it's rotten to the core.
That's all?
And that's the end of that scene.
Wow.
And again, for those of you out there, it's not a preachy movie at all. This is the only scene in the movie that I'm aware of where he gets to the core of why you got to get to the core of why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. And this is that moment where he describes that to his brother.
Yeah.
The thing, that line about the difference between the screen and what's beyond it, that's a great line.
Thank you.
Yeah, this idea that, I'm putting on my media professor hat, right? Mm-hmm. This idea that, we have such a hard time in the 21st century surrounded by screens. We have such a hard time telling the difference between, mediated experience and this thing called reality.
Yeah.
And I know we just celebrated Vermont's Independence Month in January, so declared by the Vermont State Legislature. And you had come to one of my classes at the University of Vermont in costume as Ethan Allen, and you talked
in uniform.
In uniform, and you talked big difference. And you talked about Ethan's what he called his sincere passion for liberty. Can you just revisit that for us here?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's something that, as I said to your class, it's something that hit me in a visceral way after I read that portion from that late 1700s book by Samuel Williams. And he explains how liberty isn't something that's written on a piece of paper. You can't legislate liberty. You can try. You can set up the Bill of Rights. You can set up a great constitution. You can do it all. But if the people haven't lived in such a way as to make liberty visceral to them, it's all going to fall apart. And what he meant by that was, imagine these people in the mid-1700s going into a land that was occasionally populated by a few, Abenaki and whatever else, but they basically had to cut down the trees, plant, harvest, build their own homes, do everything themselves. And then, here's the icing on the cake. They had to defend it. They'd already bought the land. Then they had to defend it against New York, who decided that they're going to resell the, they owned it, and they're going to resell the land. So that created the Green Mountain Boys. And Ethan wasn't the only person involved by any means. But what I'm getting at is that when you go through that and you win, I mean, they held off the New Yorkers without even killing anybody. There could have been a bloody war, but the New Yorkers were scared. What can I say on the radio?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
I mean, on television, that's right.
Scared, they were scared.
They were scared of Ethan and the Green Mountain Boys.
Yeah.
And he bluffed his way to Vermont becoming an independent republic, even though those decisions were made when he was a prisoner of war for 3 years. But
so the Green Mountain Boys held the territory. They held the space for 14 years. If we mark it from the signing of the original Vermont Constitution in 1777, it's probably a little longer than that.
1764 was when Ethan came back. Well, they had the court case in Albany. Ethan brought Ingersoll up from Boston to fight the case.
Right.
They lost the case because they were appealing to the New Yorkers who had owned the land, who were stealing the land.
Just a small conflict of interest, right? Right, between the Yorker courts and the Yorker landholders. Yeah.
So then it became a matter of a price on Ethan's head, and he said, well, you can't hang me till you catch me.
Right.
And
so that was 64, 65.
The decision came back from England. They appealed to the king. They said, hey, look, you've already set up the boundaries.
Yeah.
What are you letting these people do this for?
Yeah.
So there were two decisions. The first in favor of New York. The second revised shortly after that in favor of the Vermonters. But New York didn't pay much attention to that. They kept trying to do it. And so the Green Mountain Boys would burn settlers out. They would trick people into thinking that they were hanging. They had all kinds of great schemes, one of which I used in the movie about a real event, pulling a guy up in a chair and hanging him.
And that was in Bennington.
In a chair.
Right? Or was it outside of Bennington?
I think that one was in Bennington. Yeah, I'm mixing up all my anecdotes. But in this movie, it's a cop who goes, he doesn't have a warrant, and he trespasses on their land. And so you hear all these shotguns engage.
Right, and the cop's like,
click, 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 click,
right,
click.
Right.
And the cop looks around. And anyway, that's in the movie.
Yeah,
later.
well, so you're taking, it's and I look forward to reading this whole thing, because you're taking all these great moments from Vermont history, right? Mm-hmm. Particularly that early Republic period. Yeah. The 1VR, the first Vermont Republic, as I like to call it, the 1VR. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of baking them into this screenplay, which is so cool. I just wanted to read this actually from our Most Likely to Secede book, your essay entitled "The First Vermont Republic: What's in a Name," because I think it sort of speaks to the play and it speaks to Vermont Independence Month, and it's really elegantly rendered here. This is just the first paragraph, the very first paragraph from your essay. During the 14 years between Vermont's Declaration of Independence, January 15th, 1777, and its acceptance into the Union, March 4th, 1791, Vermont convened an elected assembly, adopted a constitution, coined its own money, operated a postal service, conducted military operations and diplomatic relations and trade, recruited and commanded its own militia, and wrote its own laws in a legislature elected at town meeting, where the people also elected the governor and his 12-member council. According to Ira Allen, that was Ethan's brother, Vermont from 1777 to 1791 proved a, quote, free and independent state, wholly unconnected with any power whatever. Letter to Alexander Dundas and Justice Sherwood, May 8th, 1781. Ira's brother Ethan called it a neutral republic in his letter to General Frederick Haldimand on June 16th, 1782. And then just to skip down the biography of Ethan from 1829, this was Jared Sparks. Quoting Ethan Allen, Ethan said, independence was their first and determined purpose. This is Sparks talking. Independence was their first and determined purpose, and while they were neglected by Congress and, like another Poland, threatened with a triple partition between the adjoining states, they felt at liberty to pursue any course that would secure their safety. So I'm just, so you have these 6 characters who secede from the Waterbury Mental Hospital, and they go out on this adventure, and you channel all of this sort of historical and cultural Vermontiness into the screenplay. It's really quite interesting. It's quite astonishing.
So far, I hope I can,
pull it off,
make it a good movie.
Yeah.
That's
well,
the thing.
So we have a few minutes left. So talk a bit about what do you hope for this screenplay? What are the next steps?
All right, that's a good question, because I'm not going to just bury myself and write this, because I'm taking in information all the time.
Yeah.
I'm watching certain old movies. I'm reading more material. I'm going to go back to the original discussions I had with Thomas Naylor and his secession book and find some more nitty-gritty. But on the other completely different hand, I need gags. I need Laurel and Hardy. I need music. I need dancing. And
will there be singing?
Excuse me?
Will there be singing?
Yes, there will.
All right. So you need all these things.
It's not a musical.
Yeah.
But there will be some singing.
Okay.
And I want to tell you this after the movie,
sure,
but I
sure,
just watched the Laurel and Hardy piece where Oliver Hardy sings Lazy Moon.
Yeah.
He has a voice like a trumpet.
Really?
I couldn't
believe it.
So I'm going to play that if we get a minute,
Yeah.
on YouTube for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I want people to contact me and say, I'm interested in the movie. Here's my name and my number and my email. If you have anything, let me know. This is what I can do. Whether you're an actor or whether you want to do site locations or help in any way.
Right.
Even if you just want to chat, I'm the kind of person that I just can't do this alone anymore.
You need a crew.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons I'm here today.
Yeah.
I need people to help me, to motivate me.
Yeah.
And to give me ideas, even if I might pick up an idea from something you say that you don't even know that you're giving me an idea.
So it's about the dialogue. It's about the creative process.
Yes.
It sounds like. Yeah.
It is. And recruiting people who, when and if we ever get this thing going, I can pick up the phone and say, well, this is, we're having auditions. Are you interested in that? We need musicians. I got a great project for your group, by the way.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, with Charlie Cerruti and me as Laurel and Hardy.
Nice. You do have this, I know you well, Jim, you do have this affection for kind of the older classic performers who do comedy, like Laurel and Hardy, like the Marx Brothers, and I see that reflected in here, which is also very cool. So you're really taking all these genres and kind of trying to bake them into this thing. So how do people, what's the best way for people to contact you? Tell us.
One way is just call me. I'm in the phone book. Can you believe it?
What?
I'm in the phone book. Yes, is James Hogue in Calais.
In Calais.
Plainfield, however they put it in the phone book.
Yeah, and you have your number here, but tell us your number.
802-456-1123. And that should be posted on this
Yep.
TV show. And then
Metadata.
Jim Hogue at myfairpoint.net
Nice.
is my email. And that should be posted on this thing as well.
Yeah, we'll put that on the metadata.
So we'll do that.
And I have to say, you know, as we end here, I was looking at the very end of the play.
Of the scene.
No, sorry,
Of
the end
the whole play.
Of the whole play.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to give it away, but your last line, at least the way it's currently written, you actually quote Ethan Allen.
Oh, that's the last line of this episode.
Oh, this
That's
episode.
That's not the last line of the movie.
So here, will you read that for us and like contextualize it? Like this is sort of a great moment.
Yeah. So as I said at the very beginning of this show, the cop and Ethan have a standoff. This is a young cop. He's like 23 years old, and Ethan's 70, and there's a standoff of two very strong, honest, good men, and Wendell says, "Hello, Jeremy. Hello, George." They shake hands. "Hello, Mr. Stiles." And there's this standoff, and then Wendell says, "Looks like I just missed you." It's this beautiful moment where they all get it.
Yeah.
They all come together in this loving moment.
Right.
And there's a long pause as they look at each other in the eyes. Two strong men over a generation apart. They both know that there are no words for such a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy remounts and off he goes. They all watch. And then in the police car, he does he calls back to Central.
Yeah.
He says, "Just missed him." And the lady, Betsy, says to him, "Where's he headed?" And Wendell says, "Into the desolate caverns of the mountains to wage war with human nature at large."
Wow. And that was something that Ethan had said.
Yeah. And it's a war. I mean, I fight it every day. It's a war against human nature. Humans want to be protected. They want to be coddled. They want to be safe and sound. And they want their friends. You can't get them out of that by saying liberty. It's like saying blah, blah, blah. It just means nothing. Oh. And they say, "Well, I'm free. What more do I want? I can go to the store and buy checks, or I can buy Rice Krispies. I'm free." And this concept of freedom, as they knew it then, is even to me, it's incomprehensible. And I'm Mr. Freedom guy.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to imagine that sense of freedom that people had then. And so this movie tries to, as the six people get out there, they're just so full. They're tripping on this concept of freedom.
Right.
They've never felt it before.
Right.
So they're giddy is the word.
Yeah.
They're all giddy.
Yeah, because they realize suddenly, oh, this is what liberty feels like.
It's like those West Highland Terriers when you open the door,
they're like, woo!
They're gone.
Yeah.
They're not jumping up on you.
Yeah.
They're out of here.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that's the way they feel.
Yeah.
Is that they're just giddy over the new freedom that they have.
Yeah.
And whatever else goes wrong, but they have to just stay out of they can't get caught.
Right.
And they have to build up. They'd have to build up support through being cool.
Well, that's it. They're taking their sincere passion for liberty to their immediate family and friends in Vermont and building that community. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, remember what John O'Brien did with Fred Tuttle.
Spread Fred.
I mean, that's kind of what these guys are doing because they're cool people.
Yeah.
If people hadn't liked Fred Tuttle,
Yeah.
where would that have gone?
We should send John O'Brien the script.
He doesn't do scripts.
Oh, okay.
He's
more of a, that's right, he's a different genre.
He's a completely
that's
different kind of thing, and I don't even know that he would want to do a script.
Right.
Even if he.
Yeah, I haven't heard from John in a while, but
No,
anyway.
I haven't either.
Yeah. Well, Jim Hogue, thank you so much for coming into the studio today and sharing this version of the screenplay for Ethan Allen. and the Green Mountain Boys. And we encourage our viewers and listeners to be in touch with Jim if they have interest in working on this project. It looks fantastic, and we'll keep in touch about this.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You've been watching and listening today to Plan VTV, the show about Vermont independence. Our guest in studio, Jim Hogue, and you can find out more about Jim and his work at vermontindependent.net. Thank you so much for watching, listening. Check out everything about Vermont independence at vermontindependent.net. And remember, V for Vermont.